Every year since 2014, December has been the month of the Game Awards. The Game Awards are an annual event hosted by Jeff Keighley in which everyone in the games industry, such as PlayStation, Microsoft, and Nintendo, all get to share the same stage on the same night to show off all their latest game trailers and game announcements. Oh, wait, that's not it? The Game Awards are actually to celebrate that year's best video games among all genres, platforms, and congratulate developers on their hard work and have a moment in the spotlight? Oh, I didn't know that. Hello, I am Emmy Luna Games, and in this video I'm going to be talking all about how the Game Awards have changed over the years and how I think they could improve in the future. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Anyway, with the fall of the Spike Video Game Awards in 2013, Jeff Keighley introduced his very own Game Awards the following year in 2014, and since have come a long way, growing in scope, changing and evolving categories to better fit the current industry, and even changing how certain nominees and winners are decided. For anyone that isn't familiar with the process of how the Game Awards nominees are decided, let's go through that first. For the majority of the awards, the nominees are decided by what is called the Game Awards jury. This jury consists of many gaming news outlets worldwide, including but not limited to IGN, GameSpot, Eurogamer, Famitsu, and a lot more. These outlets submit their nominations for most of the categories. There are a few exceptions to this, with the esports categories having specialized jury members, as well as the accessibility awards. So, contrary to popular belief, Jeff doesn't have anything to do with what games get nominated. The winners of each category are essentially decided the same way, tallying up votes from each of the different jury members being 90% of the vote, and the remaining 10% being decided by fan voting online. Before diving into how the Game Awards as they currently stand can be improved, let's first talk about the changes that have already taken place over the years. One of the biggest differences over the years has been the process of getting rid of certain categories, adding more categories, or just changing them up a bit with their terminology. The 2014 Game Awards had 16 categories where the nominees and winners were decided by the jury, 5 categories decided by fans, and a special Industry Icon Award. While many of these categories remain in the show today, such as Game of the Year, Best Narrative, etc., there are some notable differences. Some categories that no longer exist include Developer of the Year, Best Shooter, Best Remaster, and Best Fan Creation. Most of these categories only lasted that first year in 2014 and haven't been brought back since. Another interesting honorary award that wasn't brought back for the 2019 show and has been absent since is the Industry Icon Award, which is kind of unfortunate to me because that feels like something special, you know? However, we've been able to welcome a plethora of new categories in the more recent years of the Game Awards, including Best Adaptation, Best Audio Design, Best VR/AR, Best Community Support, and more. There have also been a handful of categories that, while not completely gone, have been overhauled. For example, the Trending Gamer Award that existed since 2014 was renamed Content Creator of the Year in 2018 and has stayed that way since then. Other categories, such as what was previously Best Mobile/Handheld Game, was simply renamed to Best Mobile Game in 2017, since with the discontinuation of the 3DS and Nintendo moving on to the Switch, there wasn't really any true handheld gaming systems releasing new games during that generation. The Game Awards have also changed in other ways since 2014, including a much bigger venue, huge gains in viewership every year, the addition of a pre-show, the amazing Game Awards orchestra, and possibly more so than anything else, more of an identity. While the first few Game Awards, it wasn't always easy to tell what we were in for, in more recent years we've come to have a better idea of what to expect, for better and for worse. The last few Game Awards could probably be summarized as a celebrity presenter, world premieres, an ad that you're not sure is a part of the show or not, most categories being skimmed over, Joseph Ferris,
fuck the Oscars, you know?
Jeff Keighley's shoes, a questionable musical performance, a Muppet or two, and gamers losing their minds on Twitter because The Last of Us Part 2 won Game of the Year. So, yes, the Game Awards have grown over the years and built an identity that feels like it's really earned its place in the industry. However, have the Game Awards reached their peak? Is this all there is? Or are there ways that the show could improve? Well, I guess it's time we get into it. Before I get into it though, I first want to say that I do not envy the team of people that work on the Game Awards. I don't think it's an easy task to try and navigate how to make an award show about a form of media that is as diverse as video games, with an equally diverse fan base. It's impossible to please everyone, especially when you're working on a rather lengthy time limit to include a shit ton of world premieres, awards, and performances in one show. You need to find a balance of not creating too many niche categories while also attempting to celebrate different kinds of games and developers. You don't want to only focus on the awards, since a lot of the viewership comes from the new trailers and announcements. But if the show is almost entirely new announcements, is it really an award show anymore? Also, I am not perfect and most definitely have not thought of every single way that the Game Awards could be improved. So, if you have any ideas on how the Game Awards can be improved for future shows, please share in the comments below. I'm recording this video before the 2022 Game Awards, so it'd be really nice if some of my suggestions actually do end up in the show this week, but if not, there's always hope for 2023, right? Firstly, I want to talk about the different categories. This is probably the most difficult thing about the Game Awards to get right, in my opinion. There are so many different genres of games out there, and while most can be kind of slotted into the action-adventure category if they need to go somewhere, it's not always that easy. This year, one of the games that many people feel was snubbed was Kirby and the Forgotten Land. While Kirby could technically fit into the action-adventure category, it isn't the type of game we think of when someone says action-adventure. Instead, we see Kirby's genre as being a platformer. It's pretty difficult to compare an action-adventure game like Kirby to something like God of War when they are so different. One of the main things I would suggest when it comes to categories in the Game Awards is the addition of a Best Platformer category. Platformer games are possibly one of the most popular and well-known genres of gaming. While they aren't my favorite, there are a ton of platforming games released every year, and they can be played by kids, and even your grandma has probably played Mario before. The lack of celebration for a genre that is so core to gaming as a whole feels a bit strange to me, and I think it'd be a welcome fit. On a similar note, there needs to be some sort of reworking or just better understanding around the Best Family category. This category is usually where the platformers do fall, such as Kirby, or in past years, games like Crash 4. The category defines itself as for the best game appropriate for family play, irrespective of genre or platform. And while many games that land in this category are multiplayer and can be played with family, there have been times where single-player games have fallen into the mix, or games that you just probably wouldn't play with your family even if you technically could. Many people have called it the Nintendo category because every year Nintendo makes up the majority of the nominations with their kid-friendly games. It seems like perhaps some voters take the category as best game to play with family, whereas others read it as best family-friendly game that your kid can play. It's a strange category, and while I don't know if it should be abandoned altogether, every year it just feels off. Another category that has been questionable over the years is Best Fighting Game. Before you panic, I'm not advocating that this category should be discontinued. However, it definitely has room for improvement. This year specifically, there's been discourse around the category as Sifu by Slowclap has been nominated in the category even though it's a single-player game. Similarly, in 2019, Jump Force, which received not great reviews, also got nominated in the category even though it was not regarded well. This begs the question, are there enough fighting games being released every year to warrant a category for the genre? Similarly to platforming games, I feel like fighting games are a core part of the games industry and deserve to be celebrated. So, how do we fix the lack of nominations? One idea I had was that similarly to how other categories have specialized jury members such as innovation and accessibility, perhaps something similar could be done for the fighting game community. To be honest, I'm not into fighting games myself, so I'm not sure how possible it would be, but if there were any gaming outlets that specialized in the genre, that could be one way to try and help get good games nominated in the category that fit the criteria. Fighting game players are dedicated, and perhaps there are more fighting games out there that aren't mainstream enough to be picked up by a lot of popular outlets that are voting. Like I said, I'm not too knowledgeable in this area, so please feel free to leave some suggestions in the comments, or correct me if there really are no fighting game specialized websites out there. I don't know. There are two other categories that I feel should simply be combined into one. They are Best Ongoing Game and Best Community Support. My reasoning for this is that pretty much every year these two categories have the same nominees except for one. While I recognize that these categories measure two different things, I personally don't feel that they add much, especially when there are other potential categories that could fill up that spot, such as my proposed Best Platformer category. Just get rid of the Community Support category. Another category that I vote they get rid of altogether is Most Anticipated. I know it's a fun thing to vote online and fight with other people about what game that hasn't even released yet is better, but it just doesn't make sense. It might as well be a Best Marketing Award since it's being judged on what they're presenting to gamers and not the game itself. It just feels silly. It's fun for now, but I'd rather see more categories instead that allow already released games to gain some more recognition. Speaking of, what are some categories that could be added to celebrate a wider range of games and developers? Well, first off, I feel like it would be wonderful if they brought back the Industry Icon Award. So many developers spend their life's work on creating games and contribute so much to the industry that I think it's important to celebrate those that really leave their mark. As for other additional categories, it's kind of hard to say. Of course, my heart says Best Platformer, Best Horror, Best Visual Novel, but how viable are those categories? A lot of horror games could fit into action-adventure or RPG. Best Visual Novel could always be celebrated in the narrative category if it was especially great. Or what about Best Rhythm Game? Are there even enough of them releasing every year to create a solid category? Are those categories mainstream enough for the wide audience that the Game Awards has? I'm not so sure. This leaves many games struggling to gain recognition because they don't neatly fit into certain categories, or lumping in visual novels with Best Narrative will eventually lead to them rarely being in the category because not enough people play them. There isn't an easy solution to this, especially as the Game Awards as a show is already bloated enough as it is. The best compromise that I can come up with is to put more niche categories into the pre-show. Of course, people would complain about that too, but perhaps it's better than nothing for these games. I wish I had a better answer for this, honestly. Please let me know what you think in the comments. That's all that I have for my proposed category adjustments. However, I do want to focus on how these categories and nominations are presented in the show itself. Far too often during the Game Awards, many of these categories feel like they're being rushed through out of obligation rather than genuine celebration. The nominees will come up as a list on the screen, Jeff will read them out, and then he'll announce the winner. We don't get to see any footage of the games or really have anything to go off of other than their names. For what's primarily a marketing event for the Christmas season, not showing the nominees is a pretty poor way of marketing if you ask me. Of course, there are some categories and nominations we do get to see with a little montage to show them off, and as an award show, I feel like it should be the bare minimum that we see this for every category. Would this add to the runtime of the show? Probably. However, I also have a solution to that. Now listen, I know we all watch the Game Awards for the announcements, but you've got to admit that year after year you'll be watching the Game Awards, and inevitably there will come a time during the 3-hour show where you'll just be sitting there thinking, why? I get it. Jeff loves showing off games of all scopes, and he's probably making some good money by showing off these world premieres. However, some of these should just be cut out. Sometimes it feels like Jeff just doesn't know how to say no. And you would think that with all these announcements, there would be at least a couple that get you really hyped up, but unfortunately, a lot of them just lead to my Twitter TL just being confused. Just cut out some of the world premieres. You all know the ones I'm talking about. I know not every announcement can be this huge hype moment, but the Game Awards are infamous for being way too long and bloated, and one of the best ways to cut down that runtime so that I'm not bored out of my mind by the end is to dial back on the trailers. Another portion of the Game Awards that could be dialed back are the performances. I know a lot of people are completely against the musical performances, and while personally I don't completely agree with that, I do think there have been years where there's been one too many performances or performances that have overstayed their welcome. However, one of my favorite parts of the Game Awards every year is the orchestra performance for the Game of the Year nominations, and I'd probably be devastated if they got rid of that. So just don't get rid of that one and we're good. The last major aspect of the Game Awards that I think could be improved is giving the award winners a moment in the spotlight. While this definitely varies by category and allowing every winner to give a 5-minute speech would not be entertaining at all, I do feel like there should be more leeway here. I just think back to last year when It Takes Two won Game of the Year and Joseph Fares barely got any time to really soak in him and his team's victory and give a heartfelt speech. It felt like he was being rushed, and as the biggest award winner of the night, he deserves better than that. The Game Awards have truly come a long way since 2014. I look forward to the show every year as it feels like the final gaming hurrah before the new year. I love looking back and celebrating the games that released, even when I didn't play most of them, and also seeing new world premieres to look forward to, what's to come in the future. The Game Awards have had some high highs and some low lows over the years. While there's room for improvement, and I hope that the following years the show continues to get better, I still enjoy watching them. And fingers crossed that this year's show will be even better than last year. If you're watching this after the 2022 Game Awards, let me know what you thought. How well did this video age? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You can also find me on Twitter and Twitch where I'm at EmiLunaGames. Until next time, bye-bye.
Yeehaw!